And welcome back. We're continuing our breaking news coverage of the report that is now out from the Alaska legislature, a bipartisan committee agreeing that the report should be released. The investigator finding that Sarah Palin abused the powers of her office. This is a legislative finding, but the report finds that Sarah Palin essentially broke state law, that she violated state law, and that she violated the public trust. This was all dating back to Walter Monaghan, who was the public safety commissioner who had been fired by Sarah Palin this summer. Initially, Sarah Palin said that she got rid of him because she wanted to take the state troopers under his direction in a different direction. Walter Monaghan then came out and said, no, I believe I was fired because I refused to fire Sarah Palin's brother-in-law, a state trooper who was in the midst of a severe custody battle with the Palin family. Monaghan alleged that there had been pressure from Governor Palin herself, from her husband Todd Palin, and from members of her staff. And the report released tonight indicates at least 19 different phone calls from the governor or her husband or her staff pressuring Walter Monaghan to get rid of this state trooper, Palin's brother-in-law. Again, Sarah Palin said earlier this summer that she did nothing wrong, that the only reason she got rid of Monaghan was because she wanted to move the department in a different direction. Tonight, the Alaska legislator report says Palin essentially misled in her public pronouncements on this, and that she did, in fact, use this family feud with her brother-in-law as a reason why she fired the public safety commissioner. So again, a bipartisan report out of Alaska questioning the truthfulness and the veracity of Alaska Governor Sarah Palin. Let's now bring in Lawrence O'Donnell from Huffington Post. Lawrence, what's your reaction to the report as we have it so far?
David, this is a devastating moment for this to occur. We've had a Washington Post poll last week that indicated very clearly that Sarah Palin was a drag on the ticket. We have her negatives skyrocketing in polls. Her negative ratings have been going straight up. The more audiences have seen her outside of her rally audiences, the more her negatives have gone up. At that point, this report lands. This is not a devastating wipeout report. This is not she's guilty of some horrendous crime. This is a report that says she violated the Executive Branch Ethics Act that says you are not supposed to take any actions in which you have a personal or financial interest. She clearly had a personal interest in this trooper situation, and that's what all those phone calls were about from Todd Palin and others, on this trooper. And so this comes at a terrible time for the McCain campaign and Palin's part in it, in which Sarah Palin is trying to be the moral authority, the voice of moral authority in that campaign in her condemnations of Barack Obama's character. That has always been a problem in her trying to deliver that message, because she has not established that authority with a wide audience. This now deprives her of any chance, really, of, in these final days of the campaign, of trying to establish that kind of authority that would allow her to then make those attacks. She's now in a defensive crouch for the next several days, at least, over this report.
Is there any sort of defense that might stick? I mean, she has said, her lawyers have said, look, because this didn't include her, this investigation didn't include her, therefore you shouldn't believe it. Never mind the fact that she didn't want to be interviewed and refused to testify. Also, is there anything they can do as far as saying, look, this is somehow politically motivated? Never mind that it was a bipartisan committee that agreed to release this report.
There's one sentence in this report that is going to be repeated over and over again by the McCain campaign, which comes after making the point that that this was a factor in firing Monaghan. The report then says, in spite of that, Governor Palin's firing of Commissioner Monaghan was a proper and lawful exercise of her constitutional and statutory authority to hire and fire executive branch department heads. The reason they say that is because Sarah Palin had other reasons that are considered legitimate in this report for doing this firing, and then procedurally, the process by which she carried out the firing was procedurally correct. That sentence is what the McCain campaign and the Palin campaign are going to have to hang on to. There aren't too many other sentences in this report that are helpful to them, but that's the one you're going to be hearing over and over again.
And it may be helpful legally, because the argument would be, look, once she took the action of firing this guy, what she said about it afterwards essentially was irrelevant. But politically, the fact that her credibility has now been shot down, isn't that the bigger problem?
Yeah, what this report says specifically is that she engaged in what they call in Alaska a violation of the public trust, and those are the terms of the law, terms of the statute, violation of the public trust. Trust is the issue that Sarah Palin has been pushing on the campaign trail about Barack Obama. You can't trust him. Now, here's someone who has been formally found in violation of the public trust in her current governing capacity. She is in no position to try to make that argument legitimate or illegitimate at this stage in this campaign on the heels of this report. This is a devastating time in the campaign for this to have occurred. And what's really striking about it is this was something that John McCain knew about before he chose Sarah Palin. This was well known that she was under investigation for exactly this subject before he chose her. He went ahead in that maverick style of his to choose somebody who no one thought made sense on this ticket until the day she was announced. He chose her. In the end, we know, instead of Governor Tim Pawlenty of Minnesota. Imagine if what we were doing here tonight was talking about what Governor Pawlenty said on the campaign trail today. Imagine how much better a position the McCain campaign would be in with that kind of coverage instead of this.
Lawrence O'Donnell of the Huffington Post, we appreciate all of your time tonight. Thanks for coming on. We will